A long time ago, in a faraway land, lived an ancient group of people made up of the highly revered tech reps and the customers. The ancient tech reps were few in number, but could solve many customer problems with great efficiency. The developed world of men wanted to know just how the ancient tech reps achieved such high levels of efficiency, so they sent a team of anthropologists to observe the ancient tech reps in action. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, and only a single anthropologist remained, the others having given up. One day, the anthropologist, having no one else to eat lunch with, decided to eat with the tech reps. While having lunch, he noticed the tech reps engaging in strange behavior. They were telling each other stories about the problems they had solved. A light bulb immediately went off in the anthropologist's head. Never wanting to be too hasty, he decided to observe what happened after the sharing of these stories for the next couple of weeks. He asked questions before and after the sharing of these stories. He discovered that through the sharing of these experiences, the ancient tech reps could generate increased group efficiency, making it easier to solve each new problem presented by the customers. This is the story of the Xerox copy repair technicians. This discovery triggered a revolutionary change in how Xerox organized and managed the tech reps, no longer as independent workers, but as a social learning unit. Hi everyone, my name is Daryl Horton. I'm a creative and technical writer with a background in information and knowledge management. I'd like to welcome you to this presentation on learning as a function of storytelling. During this presentation, I'll define the elements of storytelling, and I'll discuss how these elements of storytelling make it a very useful tool for learning and knowledge management programs. So what is knowledge and learning management? I like to define knowledge management as a tool used within organizations to leverage what people know in order to achieve operational success. I define learning management as a tool used within organizations to improve what people know in order to achieve operational success. These are very simplistic definitions, but I believe they get at the heart of what these tools are used for. To understand what storytelling is and how it is used, let's define storytelling in terms of the organization. Organizations are social environments, which means learning and knowledge management are essentially social tools. The capability achieved using these social tools can be extended using another very useful social tool, storytelling. So what is story? Story is narrative plus plot. Narrative is the recounting of a series of actions taken by a character to overcome a problem. Plot, on the other hand, is the deliberate arrangement of the narrative to reveal something significant. Storytelling is essentially the social activity of sharing a story. In other words, storytelling is the dramatic recounting of an event to highlight something important. Storytelling can also be defined as the act of leveraging story to connect, teach, and inspire. So how might storytelling be used as a knowledge and learning management tool? A company could use typical tools for capturing post-project information, like lessons learned and after-action reviews, to name a few, in order to capture their narrative. Based on how the company intends to leverage the captured narrative, they could introduce plot to highlight something significant. The company can then deliver the story using the most appropriate medium, whether that be video, classroom instruction, infographics, etc. There are many mediums the company could use to drive home the message. So we've defined story as being the action taken to overcome a problem. So what is a story problem? Problems are essential for story. Every want, need, desire, and goal has an opposition, whether an internal complication or an external conflict. The actions taken to overcome the opposition and achieve goal is the story. Stories can be created around an array of external and internal problems. I alluded to something important earlier when I pointed out how the narrative could be captured, and that is, many methods exist for capturing what's needed for storytelling. Most organizations are already capturing these items using things like lessons learned and after-action reviews. We know what story is and how to capture the information needed to build story, but there's more. There are many methods writers use to deliver story. The vehicle for delivery could include movies, music, animation, books, or photography. The specific type of movie vehicle could include comedy, drama, horror, etc. We could continue down the ladder of abstraction, which would allow for a delivery method that is very focused on a specific problem set. For example, the movie Downsizing is a social satire in which a man realizes he would have a better life if he were to shrink himself to 5 inches tall, allowing him to live in wealth and splendor. So this is an example of movie that is comedy, and even further down that ladder of abstraction using satire to focus the story around a specific problem. Storytelling is already a part of what we do. In fact, the very nature of storytelling provides easy alignment with knowledge and learning management efforts. Some examples of methods of storytelling that align with the purpose of knowledge and learning management include case studies, documentary, and conceptual photography. Case studies is defined as a detailed examination of a specific area through research. Examples of case studies include those provided by Microsoft, which provide stories of how organizations overcame technical problems. I define docupoetry as the detailed examination of a specific area through the use of poetry. Examples of docupoetry include those provided at poetryriver.org, which provide stories about lived struggles taken from the sources that include news articles, diaries, and court transcripts, to name a few. And I define conceptual photography as the detailed examination of a specific area through the use of pictures. Examples of conceptual photography include those that can be found by simply conducting a search of the term itself. Many artists and photographers use this technique to tell stories built around a problem of some kind. There are many other methods of storytelling that align well with knowledge and learning management efforts, but these are just a few. Now we'll take a deeper dive into how photography is used to deliver story. This is an example of a simple photograph. In fact, it's a photograph of me sitting on a couch at my mother's house. Like other knowledge and learning management tools we use to collect narrative, we can see how a simple photograph does the same. You may feel as though you understand what might be happening in this photograph if you look at it long enough. You may even connect with the image on some emotional level. You may be able to identify the mood of this event. In your mind, you may have already created a story around what you're seeing. This is the power of a social tool like photography, and should provide some idea of how this social tool could be used in knowledge and learning management efforts. This is an example of conceptual photography. This is essentially the same photograph, just dramatized through my theatrics and posing in different positions. Here we've taken the narrative provided by the simple photograph and added what we may consider plot in this medium in order to highlight something significant. So how has this conceptual version of our simple photograph changed your understanding of what's happening? What emotional connection do you feel now? How has the mood changed? Is the story much more vivid? Again, this is the power of a social tool like photography, and should provide some idea of how this social tool could be used in knowledge and learning management efforts. So if I were to outline some sort of chart of what we've discussed so far, it might look like this. This chart, although a simple view of the complex interactions within our social environments, shows movement from knowledge to learning as a result of transforming content using a storytelling framework. Here we are simply taking the content we've already collected and deliberately applying the storytelling framework in order to create stories we can connect with socially. We could overlay another framework to help describe the human perspective. There are several frameworks for knowledge management and learning management, but I prefer to use a simple framework that highlights the human perspective, like the OODA framework. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. It was developed by Colonel John Boyd to explain the decision-making process during combat operations. It essentially shows how human beings transform information into actionable knowledge. We begin by observing. We collect data and information through some documentation process. The documentation is stored as we orient on the information. It eventually moves through a transformative process where the storytelling framework is applied. The new documentation is shared through various mediums to others who need the information. These people transform the stories through a learning process internal to each of us, where we apply previous knowledge, referring to what we already know, to help absorb the information to support decision-making. We then act. We do things leveraging our newly acquired knowledge. As we act, we continue to transform what we know. In some cases, extending our knowledge, and in other cases, replacing our knowledge. The cycle repeats itself as we create new documentation based on the actions taken to complete some project.